Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, you're never good enough for a specific person in your life? That everything you do always seems wrong, always insufficient, always falling short of what this person expects from you? If you're watching this video, you're probably experiencing this distressing and confusing feeling. And I want you to know that you're not alone in this experience. Millions of people around the world go through this every day. And there's a very clear explanation for what's happening to you today. We're going to talk about a behavioral pattern that renowned psychologist Dr. Ramani DURVASULA, one of the world's leading authorities on narcissism, has studied for decades. She teaches us that when you're never good enough for someone, it's maybe a clear sign that you're dealing with a narcissistic person. And before we continue, I want you to take a deep breath and understand one thing. If you're going through this, it's not your fault. You're not going crazy, you're not overreacting, and you don't need to try harder to be accepted or loved by this person. What you need is to understand what's happening and how to protect yourself. When we talk about narcissistic behavior, we're not necessarily talking about someone who has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. We're talking about a specific pattern of behavior that some people develop, which can be extremely harmful to those around them. Narcissistic behavior is characterized by a constant need for admiration, a lack of genuine empathy for others, and a tendency to manipulate situations and people to maintain a sense of superiority and control. These individuals have a grandiose view of themselves, but paradoxically, this grandiosity is supported by a very fragile self-esteem. And here's the crucial point: to maintain this inflated image of themselves, people with narcissistic behavior need to constantly put others down. They do this through various manipulative tactics, which may include gaslighting, triangulation, blame shifting, and constant criticism. In everyday life, this manifests in ways that may seem subtle at first. It might be that seemingly innocent comment that always leaves you feeling bad. Or maybe it's the way this person never acknowledges your efforts, but always finds something to criticize. It could be how they constantly compare you to others, making you feel inadequate. Or how they keep changing the rules of the game, making you chase a target you can never reach. What makes this even more confusing is that these people can be extremely charming and charismatic when they want to be. They know exactly how to make you feel special when it serves their purposes. And then, when you least expect it, they make you feel like you're the worst person in the world. If this is happening to you, I want you to understand one fundamental thing: it's not your fault. You're not being too sensitive, you're not misinterpreting things, and you don't need to try harder to be accepted by this person. What you're experiencing is the result of a manipulative behavioral pattern developed by this person, not some flaw in you. Now, I'm going to share some specific signs that may indicate you're dealing with a narcissistic person. These signs are based on the work of Dr. Ramani and other experts in the field. First sign: constant criticism disguised as help. Have you ever heard phrases like, "I'm only saying this because I care about you," or "someone needs to tell you the truth"? These people have a knack for wrapping destructive criticism in the guise of concern. In reality, they're constantly pointing out your flaws to keep you insecure and dependent on their approval. For example, imagine you're excited about a promotion at work and share the news with this person. Instead of celebrating with you, they might say something like, "That's great, but are you sure you can handle that responsibility? You know how stressed you get with changes?" See how they turned your achievement into a doubt about your capability? Second sign: constantly shifting expectations with a narcissistic person. You never know exactly what to expect. The rules change constantly. Today they want one thing, tomorrow they want the opposite. You do exactly what they asked and it's still not good enough. This happens because the goal isn't really for you to get it right. The goal is to keep you always trying to please, always insecure, always striving to meet a standard they'll never admit you've reached. Imagine you're planning a special dinner. You ask what they'd like to eat, and they say they want something simple. You prepare a simple, delicious dish, and they complain that you didn't put in enough effort, that they expected something more elaborate. The next time, you go all out with an elaborate dish and they complain that you're spending too much money and that they just wanted something simple. Third sign, emotional triangulation. Narcissistic people love to compare you to others. They always have a story about how so-and-so did something better or how someone else never let them down. This serves to keep you insecure and competing for their attention and approval. You might hear things like, "My sister would never talk to me like that," or "My ex always remembered my birthdays," or "Your cousin got that promotion much younger than you." The goal is clear: to make you feel inadequate and spark a need to prove your worth. Fourth sign, subtle gaslighting, is when someone makes you question your own perception of reality. With narcissists, this can be very subtle. They might deny things they said, downplay your feelings, or rewrite the history of events to make themselves look better. For example, you might confront this person about something they said that hurt you, and they respond, "I never said that," or "You're being dramatic. It was just a joke," or "You're misinterpreting everything," as usual. Over time, you start to doubt your own memory and perception. Fifth sign, inability to celebrate your achievements every time something good happens in your life. This person finds a way to diminish your joy. They might steer the conversation back to themselves, find flaws in your achievement, or simply show complete disinterest. This happens because narcissists struggle to let others shine. You get accepted into the college you always wanted. They respond, "Nice. But it's going to be really expensive, right? And pretty tough too. You finish an important project? Oh, that's good. By the way, I need to tell you about my project." Sixth sign, constant blame shifting. Nothing is ever a narcissistic person's fault. It's always someone to blame, and that someone is often you. If they're in a bad mood, it's because you did something wrong. If they lose their temper, it's because you provoked them. If they don't get what they want, it's because you didn't support them enough. You might hear things like, "You left me no choice," or "You know how I get when you do that," or "If you really loved me, you'd understand." They manage to turn any situation into something that's your responsibility to fix, or your fault for causing. Seventh sign, conditional love. Narcissistic person's love always comes with conditions. They only treat you well when you're serving their purposes. When you question them, set boundaries, or simply aren't available to meet their needs, their treatment changes drastically. You might notice they're only affectionate when they need something from you, or that they only praise you when you do exactly what they want. And when you don't meet their expectations, the affection disappears completely, often accompanied by the silent treatment or passive-aggressive comments. What lies behind all these behaviors is a constant need for control and validation. Narcissistic people need to feel superior to maintain their fragile self-esteem. And the easiest way to feel superior is to make others feel inferior. They need you to always be trying to please, always insecure, always dependent on their approval. If you're experiencing these situations, you're likely dealing with a range of emotional impacts that can feel confusing and overwhelming. And I want you to understand that these reactions are completely normal and expected when you're dealing with emotional manipulation. First, you're probably feeling guilty all the time, even when you know rationally that you didn't do anything wrong. You still carry this weight of guilt. This happens because narcissistic people are experts at projecting their own faults and responsibilities onto you. They manage to make you feel responsible for problems that aren't yours, for feelings that aren't yours, for failures that aren't yours. Dr. Ramani explains that this is a classic gaslighting tactic. When someone constantly makes you question your own perception of reality, when they always make you feel like you're the problem, your brain starts to accept that narrative as truth. You start to automatically assume that if there's a problem, it must be your fault. Second, you're probably experiencing constant mental confusion. One day you feel loved and valued. The next day, you feel completely rejected and inadequate. This emotional roller coaster isn't accidental. It's a direct result of the inconsistent way Narcissistic people treat others. They alternate between moments of affection and moments of coldness, between praise and criticism, between inclusion and rejection. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, a pattern that's extremely addictive and keeps you always waiting for the next good moment, always trying to recapture that feeling of being special. That's why you feel like you're going crazy. Your brain is trying to process contradictory information constantly. One moment you're sure this person loves you, the next you're sure they despise you. And since they never admit the inconsistency, you're left trying to find logic where there is none. Third, you're probably living with constant anxiety. When you never know what to expect, when you never know if you'll be well received or rejected, your nervous system stays in a constant state of alert. You might notice you're always tense around this person. It's always worried about what you'll say or do to avoid triggering a negative reaction. This anxiety can manifest physically too. You might notice frequent headaches, digestive issues, trouble sleeping, or a constant tightness in your chest. Your body is reacting to the chronic stress of living in an emotionally unstable environment. Fourth, your self-esteem is probably in tatters. When someone constantly questions your decisions, criticizes your choices, compares you to others, and never acknowledges your efforts, it's impossible to maintain a positive view of yourself. You might notice you've started doubting your own abilities. Maybe you've stopped trusting your own judgment. Maybe you've started seeing yourself through this person's eyes, accepting their criticisms as absolute truths about who you are. Dr. Ramani often explains that narcissistic people are like emotional vampires. They feed off the energy and self-esteem of others. The more you diminish yourself, the grander they feel. The more you doubt yourself, the more superior they feel. Fifth, you're probably feeling isolated and alone. Narcissistic people often try to control your relationships, criticizing your friends and family, creating conflicts, or simply monopolizing your time and energy. Over time, you might notice you've distanced yourself from people who truly care about you. Additionally, the shame and confusion you're feeling might prevent you from seeking help or sharing what you're going through with others. You might feel like no one will understand, or that you're overreacting, or that it's somehow your fault. Sixth, you might be experiencing a sense of hopelessness when you constantly try to please someone and never succeed. When you try harder and harder and the results are always the same, it's natural to start wondering if it's worth continuing to try. You might be feeling emotionally exhausted. Living with a narcissistic person is like being in a job where you can never rest, never relax. Never just be yourself without worrying about the consequences. And here's the most important thing. I want you to understand, all these reactions are completely normal. You're not being weak. You're not being dramatic. You're not being too sensitive. You're having normal human reactions to treatment that is not normal. Dr. Ramani always emphasizes that the problem isn't with you. The problem lies in the other person's behavioral pattern. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to try harder. You don't need to be a different person. You need to recognize that you're dealing with someone who has a serious relational problem, and it's not your responsibility to fix it. Now that you understand what's happening, the natural question is, what do you do? How do you protect yourself? How do you start to regain your peace of mind and self-esteem? The first and most important step is to recognize that you cannot change this person. I know this can be hard to accept, especially if you love this person or if they're someone important in your life. But people with narcissistic behavior don't change just because you want them to, or because you try harder, or because you're more understanding. In fact, the more you try to please a narcissistic person, the more they'll exploit that willingness. They'll interpret your kindness as weakness, your understanding as permission to keep treating you poorly, your efforts as proof that they're truly superior to you. So the first step is to accept that the change needs to come from you. You need to change how you respond to this person, how you protect yourself, and how you relate to them. First practical step: set emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries are like invisible fences you put around yourself to protect your well-being. They include things like not accepting disrespectful treatment, not allowing someone to blame you for things that aren't your responsibility, not tolerating yelling or insults, and not accepting constant comparisons to others. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being rude or aggressive, simply means being firm about what you will and won't accept. For example, if this person starts criticizing you destructively, you might say, "I'm not going to continue this conversation if you keep talking to me this way." And then, if they continue, you actually walk away from the conversation. If they try to blame you for something that's not your responsibility, you might say, "That's not my responsibility, and I'm not going to take the blame for it." If they try to compare you to others to make you feel inadequate, you might say, "I don't want to hear comparisons. You have something specific to discuss with me. Let's focus on that." Second practical step: practice emotional detachment. Emotional detachment doesn't mean stopping caring about the person. It means stopping allowing their moods, opinions, and reactions to control how you feel about yourself. When they criticize you, instead of automatically accepting the criticism as truth, you can ask yourself, is this criticism constructive and based on facts, or is it just a way to put me down? When they're in a bad mood, instead of automatically assuming you did something wrong, you can remind yourself, their mood is their responsibility, not mine. A helpful technique is to imagine you're observing the situation from the outside, like watching a movie. This can help you see the behavioral patterns more clearly and with less emotion. Third, practical step: reconnect with people who value you. Narcissistic people often try to isolate you from others who could give you a different perspective on who you really are. It's important to reconnect with friends, family, or others who know you well and value you. These people can help remind you of your qualities, give you honest and constructive feedback, and help you see that the problem isn't with you. They can remind you of who you were before you started doubting yourself. If you've drifted away from important people, consider reaching out again. You might be surprised at how understanding and welcoming they can be. Fourth practical step: consider seeking professional help. Therapy can be extremely helpful when you're dealing with a narcissistic person. A qualified therapist can help you process your experiences, understand the behavioral patterns you're facing, develop specific strategies to protect yourself. Additionally, therapy can help you rebuild your self-esteem and confidence. It can help you process feelings of guilt, anxiety, and confusion that result from the treatment you've received. Don't be ashamed to seek help. Dealing with a narcissistic person is a complex situation that can be very difficult to navigate alone. A professional can give you tools and perspectives you wouldn't be able to develop on your own. Fifth practical step: take care of your mental and physical health. Living with chronic stress takes a toll on both your mental and physical health. It's important to take active steps to care for yourself. This might include regular exercise, which helps reduce anxiety and improve mood. It might include meditation or relaxation techniques to calm your nervous system. It might include hobbies or activities you enjoy that make you feel competent and fulfilled. It's also important to establish a healthy sleep routine, eat well, and perhaps consider supplements or medications if your doctor recommends them. Sixth practical step: document behavioral patterns. Narcissistic people often deny or minimize their behavior. It can be helpful to keep a journal or record of specific situations that happen. This can help you see the patterns more clearly and trust your own perception more. You don't need to confront the person with these notes. They're primarily to help you maintain your sanity and perspective. Seventh practical step: prepare for resistance when you start setting boundaries and protecting yourself. The narcissistic person probably won't like it. They might try to intensify their manipulative behaviors, blame you for changing, or even try to punish you in some way. It's important to prepare for this and not let their resistance make you give up on protecting yourself. Remember that their negative Reaction is actually confirmation that you're on the right track. And here's something fundamental I want you to understand. You're not alone on this journey. Millions of people have gone through what you're experiencing and have managed to recover. If you can get out of this situation, you can reclaim your self-esteem. You can trust yourself again. The problem isn't you. You don't need to be a different person to deserve respect and affection. You're already worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. What you need is to protect yourself from people who can't or won't give you the treatment you deserve. If you've made it this far, much of what I've said probably resonates with you. Maybe you recognized yourself in some of the situations I described. Maybe you've finally found words to explain what you've been feeling for so long. I want you to know that recognizing these patterns is the first step to breaking free from them. When you understand what's happening, when you put a name to what you're experiencing, you take away the power of the confusion and doubt that this person has planted in you. You're not going crazy, you're not being dramatic, not misinterpreting things. What you're experiencing is real, it's harmful. You have every right to protect yourself. Remember what Dr. Ramani always emphasizes. The problem isn't with you. You don't need to fix yourself to deserve respect. You don't need to try harder to earn someone's love. True love doesn't require you to diminish yourself to make the other person feel bigger. If this video resonated with you, if you identified with the situations I described, I'd like you to do a few things. First, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I'll keep bringing science-based content to help you understand toxic relationships and build a healthier life. Second, share in the comments if you've experienced something like this. Your experience can help others going through the same situation. When you share your story, you break the isolation that narcissistic people try to create. You show others that they're not alone. Third, and perhaps most importantly, share this video with people you think could benefit from this information. Is there someone in your life who seems to always be trying to please someone who's never satisfied? Is there someone who seems to be losing their confidence and self-esteem in a relationship? Share this video with them. You could be saving someone from years of unnecessary suffering. You could be giving someone the key to understanding and breaking free from a toxic situation. Knowledge is power. And when you share knowledge, you're empowering others. And if you're going through this right now, if you're in this difficult situation, I want you to know that there is hope. There's a life on the other side of this. Experience where you can be respected, valued, and loved for who you are. Where you don't have to walk on eggshells. Where you don't have to constantly question yourself. Where you can just be yourself. That life is possible. Millions of people have found that path, and you can too. Start with the steps I described today. Start setting small boundaries. Start reconnecting with people who value you. Start taking better care of yourself. And remember, you deserve to. Be loved for who you are, not despite who you are. You deserve relationships where you can grow, where you can be imperfect. You can have bad days without being punished for it. You deserve people in your life who celebrate your achievements, support you through tough times, and respect you even when you disagree. That's not an unreasonable expectation. That's the minimum you should expect from any important relationship in your life. And if you're not getting that, the problem isn't with you. The problem is with the person who can't give you what you deserve. So be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Start today to build the life you deserve. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.